Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Just wanted to jump on here real quick. My name's Amy. Welcome to Case by Case. Excuse me if I sound a little nasally. I've been under the weather for the past 2 days. So, welcome, everybody. Good to see everybody here. You guys all jumped on really quick. I'm actually going live at 6 o'clock on another case, but glad you all could join me here. I just thought it was important to jump on. I've had an overflowing amount of messages in my inbox, and I've been trying to respond to everybody from Saturday Night's Live with Reecei, and I'm just going to thrive off the chat tonight. Hey, Streets of Bakerfield, I'll send you a link here in a second. Um, I'm just gonna thrive off the chat and answer questions. I did want to explain a little bit more. A lot of you were messaging me about communicating with Reecei or trying to communicate with Reecei. First and foremost, I just want to say he's not going to discuss the case. Um, so if that's your intention, please don't. He's not going to do that. Um, but he is still in segregation, which, he doesn't. Let me touch on that really quick. He had asked Andrew Baldwin to help him out as far as moving him out of that pod where Keegan is. I mean, I don't know if you guys can even imagine um, snitching on someone and having to face them every single day. It's a very awkward situation, and it's not a good environment to begin with. The prison, however, took it upon themselves to not move him from one pod to another. They put him in administrative segregation, which it's solitary. He can't have regular commissary. They've taken all of his stuff. Um, and it is what it is. So if you guys want to reach out and, give him something to do throughout the day, just, normal conversation, he's all for that. Just understand that the entire state of Indiana right now is going through, they're changing their system. They were under entirely an app called Connect Network, which was GTL. They are keeping that network, but that network is only for phones and commissary. If you log on there, it says trust fund. The trust fund is for an inmate to transfer funds over any of their areas, whether it be commissary, whether it be messaging, whether it be for books, um, phone, whatever. The trust fund is the one area where you give the inmate control to do with the money that you put on there that they want to. The Getting Out app is the new app that you have to download separately, and it's not fully working correctly. They've already switched over Reese's Prison to that new tablet and that app, but it's not working fully. So I'm still having problems, adding money or communicating with him. But the Getting Out app, that app is where you put money on for messaging and for like sending photographs or video if you're doing that. So I just wanted to kind of explain that because I'm getting a lot of messages about that. And I just wanted to hop on here and answer some questions for those of you who are still, um, yeah, Streets of Bakerfield says it's a nightmare to send money to inmates right now. It is. It is. Ashley's supposed to be getting her new tablet tomorrow. They collected the old ones today. So I told her, I said, don't get excited because it's probably not going to work completely. But I know a lot of people a lot of people have opinions about Saturday Night's Live and the discussion. So I have about an hour and 20 to kill. And I thought that, hey, if you're on here and you have some questions, I'll answer them. Um, I've, I really, I really don't feel the need for people to argue back and forth about versions of what they think or who they think is involved. what everyone, regardless to who you think is involved in this case, everyone needs to be angry about the fact that we don't know because it's been hidden. Nothing has been transparent. Everything has been hidden, right down to like when I here, let me pull this up here. I wanted to go over a little bit of this. Um, just want to say, when you start reading through Nick McClelland's response, and he starts talking about we recovered. I mean, this is not a demolition site. This is not a fire. This was during the trial within the last 5 months. You recovered letters? It is your duty. It is your oath. It is your obligation to preserve this evidence. And whether you liked it or not, this trial should have came to a screeching halt. This information should have been handed over to the defense, and they should have been given the opportunity to debunk it or prove it. That's what should have happened. That is not the prosecutor's job is not to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner. So I don't that's where everybody needs to come together on this case because out of all of the and you know what? Maybe Richard Allen. What if it is Richard Allen? Okay, but you got to prove that. You don't just get to say it. You don't get to not present evidence that proves that you have the right man spending 130 years behind bars. That's this country is that's not how democracy works. That's not how justice works. That's not how our judicial system is set up. Sorry guys, I have a really bad cold. Um yeah, Judge Jessica, absolutely. Nick thinks his words are evidence and they're not. And prior to him filing this motion, I bet a lot of you were going for those of you, the cheap seats in the back who are listening and watching but refuse to come in the chat and comment, I'm fine with that. But this is directed right to you. Prior to Nick's response, I guarantee you most of you were saying that Reecei Davis was full of shit and he never wrote a letter. All of this was fabricated by the defense and it was made up out of left field. Yet here we are with Nick not only admitting that he recovered 2 letters, the letters that he inserted as exhibits, I guarantee freaking to you, he did a hey, Four Pits. I guarantee you he did not even read the whole letter. He probably grazed through it and said, "Oh, Reecei Davis said Richard Allen was guilty. I'm going to throw that in there because that's a slam dunk." But what he didn't follow through with is realize that in that same letter, Reecei stated, "I'm going to send you the communication that I have from Keegan." Well, why do you have communication from Keegan, Reecei Davis, if Keegan is claiming that he only spoke to you about 2 times? And Nick McClelland is now posturing that in his filing that now Keegan Klein is believable and Keegan Klein says X, Y, and Z, and Reecei is the liar. Come on, guys. Come on. You all know that where there's smoke, there is fire. And this is a lot of freaking smoke. Little by little, he's coming out. Well, yeah, we recovered 2 letters. Just 2? Only 2. Yet the IDOC mail registry shows more than 2. But at the same time, we can't say that every single thing on that IDOC report are Reese's letters to Nick McClelland. You know why? Because Reecei says he did not always use legal mail. course, he didn't include the letter after Keegan came to him and said, "You know what? I think Rick Allen's gonna go down. You think I'm safe? I think I'm safe. I'm good, right? They're not gonna come after me no more because this dude's gonna take the fall. And you know what? I just wanna let you know he really didn't have anything to do with it. I'm just glad he's taken the fall." So, can we believe that? That conversation happened? Well, I don't know. I know that it was pretty much the icing on the cake for someone like Reecei who had been trying to reach out. And you gotta understand that he was reaching out during the trial because he was like, "You got Richard Allen. You got the right guy, but there's 2 other people over here involved that you're missing. Hello, pay attention. I'm over here. This is the information that I have." And he's being ignored. At the time during trial, let this sink in. At the time during trial, Reese is not arguing Nick McClelland and the state's position on who they think is guilty. He is agreeing. You got Rick Allen, but guess what? You've got these 2 other dudes that I know have told me they were involved. And Nick McClelland was ignoring that. It kept his case intact against Keegan, and it also would have allowed him to charge someone else. And he completely ignored it. Why? Why? And that's not believable. Yet Keegan comes out once again and says, that dude right there had nothing to do with this. He's going to take the fall. And that's bullshit. I don't know, guys. What do you think? Cal says, isn't that the main point that Nick was legally bound to turn those letters over to the defense help? Yeah, he was. And my point exactly was during the trial, Reese's letters didn't exclude Richard Allen. They boistered Richard Allen, and Nick still ignored them. And you know what, KO? If Keegan's mouth is moving, he is lying. But here's the flip side to that. Keegan's devices aren't lying. Keegan's search history isn't lying. Keegan's search history of the Marathon gas station the day that the girls were taken isn't lying. His communication with Abby isn't lying. The Anthony Shots account isn't fake. That's the problem. That's where I have the hang up. When you sit back and you look at all of this, for 2 years, I was going, how in the hell is he not involved? How is he not involved? You want to talk about coincidences? That's crazy to me. I'm reading. Fig Ferrari, yes, you're right. Doesn't matter how we feel about it as evidence, it should have been presented. Yes, that's absolutely right. And let me see here. Alina says the cover up started before the girls were even found. Streets of Bakerfield says so. The question becomes who else has the burner phones? Who with the burner phone is being protected? Who did they find in the Dropbox? That right there. That right there. Um, the Dropbox, I think, is, and if you guys have all noticed, hey, Mama D, um, where'd the Dropbox go? How do we, like, I mean, when you're listening to this interview with Vito and Keegan, and they're telling him that this is the largest pedo they've came across in Indiana, why, where did that go? And why don't we know, like, out of that investigation, what search warrants and arrests were made? I mean, I'm sorry, but elected officials, people who are on the government's payroll that us as citizens pay, we have a right to know how they're doing their job and what's being accomplished and what's BS. And I truly feel like there's something going on with this Dropbox, which is why, it's a self-preservation situation between the pedo and the drugs, and it all could be commingled. Along that line, someone somewhere high up is being protected, which means the lower man can't be busted, because if the lower man is busted, guess what? He's rolling on everybody. Well, that's just it. Kel, we don't know who was in the Dropbox. Well, and I just want to say too, really quick. I just want to. I am not. So I just have. I have a. How can I explain this? So I have my youngest daughter, she's now 21, but you know I got divorced, and it was just her and I for a very long time. And I mean, we did everything together, 24 hours a day, under the same roof. Dinner, we had dinner nights, twice a week, shopping together, laundry together. I mean, we did everything together. And when I listened to the interview with Keegan, it seems to me that him and his dad were that close. They were, as father and son, they were best buds. And at Keegan's age, I highly doubt Keegan is having a sleepover to where someone who spent the night at his house at 8 o'clock in the morning is awake, logging in and logging out of the Anthony Shots accounts on different devices. And I know some people don't want to think that Tony Klein's involved. I don't know if he is or not, but I know that anybody involved in something like this, unless their ass is held over a fire, they're never going to admit it. Ever going to admit it. They're going to say whatever they have to say to get out of it, or to duck and dodge and take the blame off themselves. But if they're going to Vegas and they're sleeping in the same room and they're looking at, going to best little whorehouse in Texas like they were. Thank you, Alina. Um, Odds are there's no I can't say that in front of my dad. I can't show my dad these pictures I got on my phone. Oh my god, my dad would hate me. Well, you heard in that interview where they basically said, well, we told your dad 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when we served the search warrant, your dad's known about this. And Keegan still sits there and acts like, well, he never said a word. He never let on to me that he knew. Are you kidding me? Go ahead, Streets.
Hello.
Hello.
Tony is a predator. I mean, it's on paper. I mean, his own stepson went on a podcast and described horrific behavior. That doesn't just end. Like, people are who they are. By the time you're like 25, you pretty much are who you are. I mean, of course, there's addicts that go to rehab and they change and all the, hugs and rainbows. By the time you're 25, you pretty much are who you are. And if you're breaking the orbital socket of a little boy at 30 years old, that's who you are. Like, you don't change from that.
Well, and let me see here. Mama D says another question: why are Shaggy and Maggie and Greeno? Thank you for using my names. Thank you. Why are Shaggy and Maggie and Greeno and a few others reaching out to Keegan to inform him what Reecei has said, etc.? Who cares that much about a sicko that harms children? I don't know. And all I can say is this is like the title of my live on Saturday, The Devil is in the Details. And from Nick McClelland's own filing, you see that Reecei is telling him, and when he puts this in his filing, that somewhat kind of means that Nick McClelland believes it to be fact that Keegan Klein was communicating with Reecei. Ask yourself why. Why? And when Reecei is saying, you're the prosecutor, go get it. Go get the interview tape. Pull the videotape from the prison where you're going to see Keegan coming to my door numerous times to speak to me. Why, if Reecei is nobody and Keegan's never given him the time of day, but maybe spoke to him twice, like Nick McClelland said in this filing on the first page or second page, but then turns around and includes a letter from Reecei where Reecei's saying, do you want these letters? I'm going to send them to you. He did send them to him. What does Keegan say to that? And
what does Nick McClelland say to that? Like, what is he hiding? He's hiding something.
He's hiding something or someone, period.
Do they just not want it to, like, is it someone big in that Dropbox, or do they just not want it to get out that half their fucking town is pedophiles?
She just said it right there. This case is bigger than the murder of those two girls. Elena, you are absolutely right. And here's the sad thing. Everybody who cares about this case only cares about those two little girls, and who I don't give a shit who it is that they're covering for. The sad thing is that people would rather preserve themselves and let an innocent man suffer for eternity than let a comrade fall.
Yeah, to what Four Pits just said. Right after that, I'm the daughter of a biker. I mean, biological. I don't know him that well, but I know a lot about that world. And that many bikers don't show up because two little girls died unless daddy was a biker. Like, why did all those bikers show up?
Mm-hmm. Mama D, you're absolutely right. We've done the math. And Keegan will more than likely be out in 8.5 to 10 years. And I'm going to do a separate live. And listen, I think I know Reecei a little bit. I mean, I've only been communicating with him for 2 months, so I'm not going to say I know his whole life story, his heart, or anything. Okay, it's just basic judge of character. He seems like a great guy. He gets emotional, which tells me that he has empathy. There are some
I like
things
his accent.
There's some things that he reacts to where you kind of get a kind of a gist of the kind of person that he is. And he is even saying, don't believe me, demand answers, the evidence is there. And what he means by that is when he didn't know an ass from a hole in the ground. This man has been in prison for almost 14 years. Okay. So he was in prison when Abby and Libby, when this happened to them. He doesn't know what Ron Logan's property looks like. He doesn't know the layout of the trails. He only gets snippets of what's shown on like CBS News on an Ashley Banfield 20-second or 20-minute episode. The details are not there. What he's saying is that as he was watching the trial, he's shaking his head, yes, because all of these things that he has sent to Nick McClelland is exactly what he was told. Good job. Good job, Nick. Good job, Nick. High five, Nick. Yes, that's what it is. That's what I was told. But the evidence was used against Richard Allen. And then when Keegan looks at him and says, he, he wasn't even involved. He's going to go down and I'm going to be safe.
That's
Reece
so
wrote,
gross.
before Reece spoke to me, before Reece's name was put in a filing, Reece wrote that letter to Nick McClelland. OMFG. I don't think Rick was involved at all. Keegan is hoping that he's the fall guy.
And he so Keegan was hoping that he was the fall guy, and then when the trial was over, Jerry Holman goes and gives Nick McClelland a big slap on the back, like, and says, "I'm glad you pulled it off." Like, why were they so scared? If you have this evidence and you're so like I don't know, it was just it feels like they did what they could to set this guy up. I don't know.
What? Okay, Precoscent, what'd you say? Where can I find more info about the messages between them? I'm not sure what you're talking. Messages between who? British Birdie, absolutely. You know, I am not somebody who would do a crime like crimes against children take a whole nother level of mental disturbance, in my opinion.
Children are a whole cycle. As a person in EMS, I can tell you, when it's a kid, it hits different, and everyone feels it. Law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics. Like, when it's a kid, like, we have pediatric roles, we have special ways that we drive just because there's a pediatric patient. So for you to be able to hurt a child is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, and Mama D says I've known Reece for decades, and he's a good man, or he's a good dude. Looking at it, like Michael Osbrook just shared his transcripts and stuff with me, and I'm still reading them. But a couple of the exhibits that are in there, and I, you know, I guess this is the way that it's done. But you know, he got the amount of time that he got because his residence was within 1,000 feet of a youth program, which was a church.
Didn't they not add that youth center to the sign until after he was arrested, but before the trial, so he got nailed for it? Is that true?
It's like I don't want to say because I'm not all the way through the transcripts, but it is something like that. And what I was going to point out is that the map that they have included in the transcripts from where his residence was, it's a straight line to this church. So you're going over top rooftops. It's several blocks away. It's not like
I heard some mental gymnastics had to be done to put on those special, what do they call it? I'm sorry. When you get more time for something, what is it called?
enhancements.
Enhancements. Yeah. I heard they had to do some mental fucking gymnastics for those enhancements. And that's like,
He
that
has a
sucks.
couple, and he has a that's the enhancement. It's because I mean if he had a modified sentence right now, he would be out. He's not a violent offender, and if he would have picked up the phone and he would have called a rehab center, his life would be completely
I
different
know.
at this
As
point
a
right now. So
judge.
that doesn't, and
But
that
it
doesn't,
also sucks that the cops, I mean, they knew what he was trying to do, but it was a bust. And so they, instead of helping him, they busted him. You know what I mean? That just, and they fucking threw the book at him, and all he wanted was some help. And like, you're there to protect and serve, like, not just seek and destroy. It's just fucking gross. Sorry. I'm
no, you're fine.
professional.
No.
I'm being professional.
Okay. Cryptech says Reecei Davis sounds really genuine to me. You know what? I don't know. Maybe Reecei to me, I don't think when you're in a position like he is, I don't think you know how to be disingenuine because you're at such the mercy of the life you're living. You're at such the mercy of the prison, and something like this to I mean, it literally takes a lot for a prisoner to make major outside contact with the world. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, they have their messages and they have their phone calls, but you got to remember, 75, 80% of society overlooks someone who's an inmate. And
Hell, I tried to put money on his books and my bank flagged it as fraud. Like, why are you trying to give money to a convict? Like, yeah, it was, yeah.
yeah,
It's
and it's and in this situation, whether re I it's bottom line. I 1000%, 1,000,000% that I believe that what Reese is saying, he was told, absolutely told. The truth of what he was told should have been investigated. The
yeah.
defense team should have had the opportunity to investigate it. It's that simple. And if you are that confident in your case, Nick McClelland, if you are that confident in your unspent bullet had to be fired bullet to make it match bullet, then you should have had no problem turning over these letters from an inmate that you now feel confident to put a pedophile, a convicted pedophile, up against as a truth speaker
Who's
to
lied
prove
to
that
you
he's
so much
lying.
that, I mean, how much money did Keegan Klein waste sending ISP on a wild goose chase? You got river searches, you got Doug Carter's fucking helicopter. Like, how much money has the state of Indiana spent on Keegan Klein's wild goose chases? And Nick McClelland's going to quote him as the Bible in this situation? That's disgusting.
I mean, it's I would just you know what? Nick McClelland would have a lot more respect if he would have just done the right thing all along.
He's protecting someone. I don't know who he's protecting. It feels like, I mean, I don't know if he's protecting. They let Ron Logan rot in jail even before all this with his felony DUIs. And like, if you look at the addresses of where Ron Logan got his DUIs, it's almost like they were waiting for him to come home from Lafayette. Um, he gets on the same road every effing time. But I don't know. Like, he's protecting somebody? Like, who is he? He used to be the lawyer for that entire township, and he was a public defender for um, Clinton, White, and Carroll County. So for like almost 10 years. So like, who's he protecting? Or is he covering his own ass?
well, I
Like,
just I when you like for those of you who are in the chat or who are listening on the replay, love you. Thank you for being here. But um go over and listen to the David Kallenberger coverage that I did, where you find out about Tony Richards and Barry Richards. I believe it was Tony Richards who was the chief. He was the sheriff of Tippecanoe
it
County.
Barry Richard.
Barry,
Yeah.
Barry Richards. And, they were controlling all the meth coming in there.
And
And
Jerry Holman used to be on the meth suppression task force for ISP. Good job, Jerry. There's no meth in Indiana. There's
I
nothing.
mean, so you have to ask yourself, if it's running rampant over here, why wouldn't it be running rampant over there? And when you really have to go back and look at Nick McClelland's his legal record as far as him being a defense attorney, and everyone that he encountered as a defense
Yeah.
attorney. It's deep. It's very deep.
Well,
All of the individuals.
if he was White County and Carroll County, for as much as the Paladinos were in and out of jail, if he's a public defender, he knows their cases.
Mhm.
And I will say one of the things that I've noticed from working in rehabs and being on the street doing 911 is with meth, there's always like sexual dysfunction. Like if you search a tweaker's backpack, you're gonna find a sex toy of some sort, whether it be a vibrator or a dildo. I don't fucking know. But if you search a tweaker's backpack, you're gonna find a sex toy. And yeah, there's a lot of sexual dysfunction with meth psychosis. So I mean, you never even fucking know. But I'm just saying that as far as like the pedophile thing and the Paladinos, like that doesn't take them out because perversion is a huge part of meth.
Yeah. It makes you wonder.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why when you talk about this case, when from one version to another, I don't care who you are, and I don't care, you know, who or what you think happened and who was involved. Everybody's got, I mean, all of us have legitimate theories, starting from day one, what people think happened. The Tina Rodell, Tyler French, Derek German, Gabe Ellis, so on and so on and so on and so on. All of these theories make sense. But people get upset when someone thinks that their theory is more valuable or more, credible than another, and they want to debunk it. But at the end of the day, this case is so bizarre
The Ted
in the way that
DePace.
it was handled from then until now. Anything in between is possible. Anything's
From the
possible.
very beginning, even before the cops started messing up, they were covering their asses. Like what before they even like they knew something because if you look at everything from the beginning, it was all about CYA, shut it down, kick the FBI out. Like even on the scanner when they found the girls' bodies, one of the first thing Tobe says over the scanner is the FBI there yet? Like, you know what I mean? Like from the very beginning, it was everybody out. You know what I mean? And that was weird.
Hmm. Oh. um, I don't. Do you see the question on the screen?
Me, hold on.
Hmm.
You know what? I don't know. There's that dude is an enigma wrapped in a mystery, wrapped in a clusterfuck. He's has a personality disorder of some sort. I'm not a psychiatrist, but he's not normal. Um, I find it weird that he did a recreation video almost exactly as the crime was described, like less than a year after the crime happened. And it turns out that's exactly what happened. So that's always been weird. And then there's a girlfriend who stole his computer at one point in time while he was in jail or was left to her and she went through it or something. And there was something in that computer that scared her. So I don't know. Green is fucking crazy. He sent me a message on Facebook talking about because of talking to Reecei and then asking if he talked to Greeno, and he said something about I know who you are. I know exactly who you are. We've known about you since the leak. And I was like, oh really? But yeah. He's put himself at the scene. He said his phone was caught in the geofence. He's confessed to it like 3 times. um I don't know. I don't know. Greeno's just retarded.
Well, I don't have anything against anybody. Just don't come for me. That's all I'm gonna say. Don't do that, because then I will have a problem. I think that we're all here for the same reason. I think
Yeah.
girls are the priority, and I think that for the most part, um, like, I don't. It's sad. This whole thing is sad, and um, Judy Hadaway. What I just meant to put your little comment up here. Um, Judy Holloway says, I felt KK told Reecei that, but I feel KK was sent there to tell Reecei that to debunk the Ron letters not being passed to the defense. Well, no, because KK was in there before the trial. And I really think at that time, Nick McClellan had already forgotten about Reecei reaching out back in 2017 about what Ron Logan was saying. It wasn't until the trial was getting ready to start that Keegan really started like speaking, because I guess put yourself in Keegan's shoes. Hypothetically, let's say that you're involved in this and you're watching what you did play out in the media. That even though we didn't get to see the trial, we didn't get to watch it. It's on the nightly news. According to Reecei, he was shitting bricks. And he was excited that Richard Allen was being charged and no one was looking at him anymore. But I mean, go back and listen to his interview with Shaggy and Maggie. The interview that he did on the video cam. And he says he can't talk about anything, that he's tried to give Nick McClellan the information, but Nick McClellan's not listening to him. Well, do you see Keegan? Like, do you see what the way I took that was that Keegan was trying to implicate his father and not himself? I don't think there's one without the other. If one of them are involved, they're both involved. I don't see one without the other. Why would he do that? Wouldn't he have just been happy to take the sentence that he got, take his classes, get his good behavior, drop his time down, and do 8.5 to 10 years? Why does he feel the need to implicate his father or himself in this Delphi case? Unless somebody behind the scenes is not letting it go.
The fact that he brings his father into it, in my mind, makes it like if it's just him, he's pretty close with his dad. He's not going to take his dad down for no reason. You know what I mean? There's a reason why if they're that
Well,
close,
I
why
well,
did
I don't think that Keegan is stupid. I think that Keegan wants us to think he's stupid.
I think
I think
Keegan
that
has outsmarted us all.
I think that Keegan thinks that he needs to get ahead of this, and by pointing the finger at his dad, why his dad's not trying to point the finger at anybody, that could be, you know what? And they could not even be involved. You just don't know. With this case, you do not know. But what you do know is that there are too many people of interest, too many theories, more plausible than Richard Allen on the table. And that's the problem, regardless to what you believe. I'm sorry, I'm reading
Yeah.
this. I'm reading the comments. I don't necessarily know that the FBI dropped the ball. I think the FBI were kicked off too early. I
The
don't
FBI
believe
was
that.
there like when it happened. Like how
Well,
they
that was
got the
because of the NASCAR doctor, the Dr. Nas, whatever his name was, the
mess.
gymnastics guy. Um, I don't think the FBI had. They weren't on the case when KK was brought in, I don't believe, or they had just been kicked off right before or right after. I know that they tried to blame the video files from the Marathon gas station on the FBI, but
Oh, I'm just wondering what made them to do it. Decide like on the night that they did it. Like Keegan had been in jail since what, August or whatever, and they released that video in December. So on December 6th, like at 10 o'clock, like what was the catalyst to that release from ISP?
Mhm. And we'll never know unless somebody on that side of the fence wants to come out and speak honestly. We'll never know. So there's a lot. I mean, I don't know. But as far as, Reecei goes, I believe that, the information that he's shared, I believe he was told by Ron Logan and by Keegan Klein. I think you can clearly read Nick McClelland's filing and see that, you know, not to be funny, not to be silly, but Michael Osbrook and I talked about this like 2 or 3 weeks ago about the Keegan Klein letters that were included with Reese's letters. And it was supposed to be kept quiet because the defense wanted to wait and see if Nick McClelland was going to ever
Release it.
admit that he even got letters from Reecei to begin with. And in this filing, he released, not only did he get letters, but that he released a letter from Reecei saying, I've got communication from Keegan. I'm going to send it to you. And yet, he hasn't recovered those, like a bomb went off in the prosecutor's office and they're still recovering letters that were dropped off by the postman. I don't understand that. Like it's relevant to the trial that you are daily participating in and you got to recover these. That's just not the way this works. It's not the way
Yeah.
it's supposed to work.
It's really I'm really, I mean, it's just, and the men that are involved in this, I mean, besides McClellan, the law enforcement officials, Mullins, Lesenby, Liggett, they've been around forever.
Mhm.
And the panic that set in when, was his name Pickard or whatever, was going to become the sheriff, like the panic that set, you know what I mean? It almost feels like even as if Doug Carter was panicked that Liggett was going to lose that election. And
Mhm.
why? Like whoever wins wins, right? I mean that's how, I mean they're gung-ho red-blooded Americans in Indiana, but I mean they're going to be scared of an election.
Well, I think the Delphi case was front and center during that election. And it was being pointed out that here we are, 6 years later, and there's still no arrest.
Yeah. Well, you
But I
had
mean,
I mean, I don't know if I'm remembering this right, but you had Becky Patty herself like standing up during their like debates or whatever saying, "Why haven't you brought in the FBI?" Was that Becky? I forget who it was, but someone asked them like, "Why haven't you brought in the FBI?" Or why'd you kick out the FBI? I forget what it was, but Liggett got red faced, and then something about good old boys, and Pickard looked at him and was like, "I am not a good old boy," and you could tell that made Liggett uncomfortable. It was like, "Uh-oh, my bodies are gonna come crawling out of the ground."
CW says I can't. Where'd it go? I can't make up my mind if KK is just an attention seeker or if he's involved. I agree. You know what? That's one thing. Okay, so Cryptex, that's one thing that I was wanting to do this coming weekend when if I go live. Oh my God, I can't breathe. Hold on a second here. Let me pull this around. I think it depends on how you look at the crime scene. Um, whether you believe how it was staged, depending on where the person was standing over each individual girl and placing the sticks, you know, we're looking at it as an overall picture. And was the person who did it looking at it as an individual? Like, I'm standing at the person's hips, creating this shape. And then on this person, I'm standing at their shoulders, creating the shape. That's what I've been wondering and trying to rotate the images from the crime scene to figure out, does it work any certain way, or do you have to look at it, from one way? That would be, I don't know. That is a very good question, Cryptex.
What was his question?
His question was, what do you think about KK's statement regarding the sticks? Witchcraft staging. I found that interesting.
I find it interesting too. You know the name of the little girl who started the Salem witch trials? Do you know what her name was?
Mm-mm.
Abigail Williams.
Oh,
The
stop.
Crucible. You didn't read The Crucible?
Yes, I
I
did.
sent you
Now
that.
that you
It's
say that,
Abigail Williams, and she looks like she was pressed. I don't know if you know what that means, but
yeah, I do. I know what that means. But now that you say that, yes, I do remember because I did read The Crucible.
Abigail Williams. She kicked off the Salem witch trials with her acid trip. And they said that there's like studies been done that said that there was like some form of mold on the rye and those parts back in those days when it was being stored. So the Salem witch trials were probably all one big acid trip. That's what I choose to believe.
Well, it's infamous now.
Yeah. But yeah, the name of the little girl was Abigail Williams, and she was 13 years old.
Adjusted Fate says, but Keegan didn't need Reecei to get ahead of it because he had already been in the mix. Since they raided his dad's house in February 2017. Yeah, he was. That's what I'm saying. Like, he didn't need to go in there and talk to Reecei about anything, but he did. Dr. K says, sex pervs don't change. They have to have therapy and perpetually. That's the justification for the registry. I agree. I would have to agree with that. That's more of a hormonal human function that probably can't be rehabilitated.
That's why we should just kill them all.
Good Lord.
Or castrate them. I think chemically castrating pedophiles should be a thing.
43 Goblin, 1,000,000%. The only thing we know for sure is that we know nothing for sure.
That
Hell
is true.
yeah. That is the truth. So, guys, I got about 10 more minutes on here. I'm doing a live at 6 o'clock. I'm doing part 2 of Ashley's case. So if you guys are interested in that, be here for that. Mama D says, does anyone know what state just had a federal bus that took down several corrupt law enforcement officers, judges, and prosecutions? I just seen that.
Was that someplace in Alabama?
I think it was Alabama.
Yeah, I just looked it up in Hansville. I never heard of it, but whoever found it needs to be looking in some other places. There's a lot of it going around.
Mm. You know, and I feel, I feel bad for parents in this day and age. Like when my oldest was growing up, like Instagram just became the big deal. And she wasn't allowed to have Instagram. And then when I finally let her have Instagram, I had to have the password. But by the time my youngest was in high school, she would delete her account, create a new one under a name I've never heard of. She would have 5 or 6 accounts going on just so mom couldn't track her. So, I mean, they make it almost impossible for parents to, it's either no phone or you have no control. That's how I see it.
No phone until you're 16, and then I get all the passwords.
That still doesn't help. I had the passwords. They would create other accounts.
Dude,
So
this
I would
is
be like,
just
babe, you haven't posted on Instagram for like a week. That's not like you when you posted like 4 and 5 times a day. She's like, oh, I'm bored with it. And you find out that's not even the account she's using anymore.
yeah, exactly.
Let's see. Well, hopefully the appellate court finds something to get Rick back into court. Otherwise, this is going to be a long haul.
This is what I'm worried about. The fact
Oh,
that when,
look at Fig's comment.
where?
It's on the screen. And you know what? I would have never. I used to years ago. I used to really think that Doug Carter was a man of stature. I used to really like him. But
Well, he's Catholic, so I'm disappointed.
I have done a complete 180 on him, and him saying if you don't like the verdict in this country, move somewhere else. You're absolutely right, Fig. Fig says I'm looking for an alleged interview where Doug Carter refers to the Flora Four as those black girls. I'm with you 1,000,000% on that.
I felt the same way as you did, Amy. I thought he was a great guy, but I don't anymore.
No.
Well, I'm Catholic and he's Catholic, so I was really rooting for Doug Carter, but disappointing.
Yeah. The way this has all turned out is, all I can say is apparently there is evidence that we have never seen or ever heard that allows Doug Carter and Liggett and Lesenby and Nick McClellan and all of them to sleep at night. There has to be evidence that we've never seen or heard, which makes 0 sense.
Yeah.
Oh, let me see here. Hey, Heather Brown. 43 Goblin says, I really hope Reecei is able to sleep a lot easier after speaking last night. Must have been a very relieving feeling getting all that off of his chest. Yeah, I mean, I think I think that he's still stressed about the whole thing. I think that he was expecting a lot more to come of it. And then there's the fact that he's being called a liar while he's also being silenced and being put in this situation where, they take everything from him. He can't have access to the normal things that he's had. I mean, he's not in trouble. He didn't do anything to get in trouble besides basically say it's not probably a good idea with me talking publicly that me and Keegan are within arm's reach of each other. So.
Then why won't they pull up the video? Like, it's so easy to prove. And, like, wouldn't you want to prove it? Like, wouldn't you want to know whether or not Ron Logan was involved? And wouldn't you want to know if there's burner phones with child porn floating around your community? Like, are they, I mean, what the fuck?
Not if you know that potentially there's a lot of people that you consider your friends involved.
Dude, yeah, I've been really getting into Carroll County history and like the old plat books and like old farmland, the old families. And those Deer Creek Township people really fucking stick together. And they're all like married to each other and like they all live in like the same place. I wanted to ask Four Pits or a local a question about that one listing that I sent you with that barn and the reason why in the listing they put pictures of the Freedom Bridge. And I
Mhm.
think that's because that's where it used to be. But I want to know because if you look that up on Google Earth, like back before they put in the 25, it was like a working farm and its driveway was directly across the street from the CPS driveway. And because it doesn't exist anymore, it's hard to find property records on it. I've been looking and looking. I sent you the one that I did find. But like that's all it says is North 300 West, but there's no address. I want to find out the address and see who lived there. Just for my own.
No, I don't know. I don't know how there would be a driveway across.
So
Can't remember.
before there was a 25, that
Uh-huh.
was like another business, like where the 25 goes through now, right next to the CPS building. There was a
Mhm.
whole like business lot there that they tore down, and there was a farm like right on the edge, but it had all kinds of old container trucks. It had an old farmhouse. It looks like it was pretty like busy, like lots was going on. And its driveway was directly across the street, like connected with the CPS driveway.
Oh, that's a Delphi Library map.
I know, I gotta go. Well, they have a current plat map from like like right before the highway thing on sale for like $60, but I don't want to give that county any money. But I'm probably just gonna order it.
Well, or we can stop in there when we go.
That's
Fig, you said all trial eyewitness accounts I saw said the sticks look staged. The sticks were placed. Um, there's no purpose for the sticks other than to make it appear to be something, either appear to be a ritual that it was, or to appear to stage a ritual that wasn't. Otherwise, there's really no reason for the sticks to be there. These weren't put there to cover anything up. These were placed methodically. They were to replicate something. And like I said, I think it depends on how you look at the crime scene, where the person was standing, when the sticks were being placed, what they, in their mind and their eyesight, was seeing. If it was a witchcraft pentagram or an anarchy symbol or a rune, I think it was all in the eyes of the beholder. And that might be an angle that's not really been thought of, but I think that it's very possible. But those sticks were not there to cover anything up. It's just, that it was a waste. That would have been a waste of freaking time. You'd have been a lot better off just scooping up leaves and brushing them over the girls versus methodically going and getting these sticks and placing them the way that they were placed.
it's very apparent to me that they weren't just thrown. Like I mean, nature doesn't make 90-degree angles. Or
Yeah.
45-degree angle. 45-degree angle? 45-degree angle. There you go. Sorry. I suck in that. But nature doesn't make 45-degree angles.
Fig also says, wasn't during the satanic panic. Well, that the phenomenon during the satanic panic where killers use pagan imagery to throw off investigators. Yeah. And if Keegan, made these statements, that's pretty much what he did. He said he wanted to make it look like a bunch of kids did it, and they made it look like it was, some sort of a witchcraft, Wiccan or whatever type thing. And I don't know if you guys look at the crime scene or even the mocked crime scenes of the bodies and the way the sticks were laid over top. Can you turn these in any one direction to make each individual girl look like she has a pentagon or a pentagram over top of her? I don't know. I want to do that next weekend in our members only live. So, well, look, guys, it's 5:36. I have another live coming up at 6. I got to hop off here.
It was good talking to you.
It was good talking to you too. So happy everybody was here. I'll be back on in like 20 minutes talking about Ashley's case.
Oh, did you see French's comment? I've never thought about
Who?
that before.
Who is it?
French 6290. Someone with knowledge wanted to frame Holder and crew. Abby dated Logan Holder, and the Patties knew it. They've got our girls. She's the one that pointed them in Brad Holder's direction. That's a good point, French. Never thought about it that way.
That is a very good point. They've got our girls.
They've got our girls. Someone with knowledge wanted to frame Holder and crew. Abby dated Logan Holder, and the Patties knew it. That's a really good point, French. I never thought about that. That's a whole new seed in my brain now.
And you know what? I've always wondered, because I've always heard that it was Becky who pointed the finger at Brad Holder.
Yeah, I've always heard
and
that
too. And the fact that he was an Odinist. Okay, well, in the early hours of the investigation, why would she think that this crime had anything to do with an Odinist unless the investigators point blank on the spot said, this is what the crime scene looks like?
Well, I think one of the reasons why they went hard on the Odinism thing, there was a point of time where, right after, a day or two after the murder, Mike Patty, drove over to talk to Pat Brown because he wanted to know, I guess the police weren't telling him or anything, and he wanted to know, what exactly did you see? And I'm sure Pat Brown had to say, that would be the first thing I would notice, who would put sticks on top of them, and what is this pattern? What is this design? It's obviously a design. What are they trying to say? That's what I would be focusing on. It feels like a message, so
yeah, it does. Absolutely, it feels like a message.
So I'm sure Pat Brown included that in his description to Mike Patty, and it wouldn't surprise me if Mike Patty went home and told Becky that, and Becky was like, Brad Holder's an Odinist. Go look at him. But they have our girls. That was before the bodies were discovered. So I don't know how that fits into it. I don't fucking know. Don't listen to me. Just rambling.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to hop off here. Love you for being here. If you're on the replay crew, thank you. I always try to go back through and answer questions. And I will see you guys in about 20 minutes. Thank you, Cherie and Streets of Bakerfield.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.